Alright everyone, so we went through the majority of the process of production. So right now what I'm going to show you is a little bit of old footage that I recorded quite a while ago. It's using the program Retas Paintman, and hopefully another program called Retas Traceman. So Paintman is what they use in anime to paint their cells, and right now they're actually moving over to software from Toon Boom called Harmony. So it's just starting out over in Japan to be part of the standard of painting animation cells, and in Korea and China. I know right now Toon Boom is doing a lot of teaching over there to show people in companies how to use Harmony to do their painting and animation. So that's what's going to be happening very soon. So at the moment they're using Retas Paintman and Retas PaintmanHD. So here's some old footage and I'll be narrating it. It's kind of short, but I'll show you the quick process of painting cells in Retas. So over in Japan they use software that's 2 or 3 generations old, so every company is using the same type of software. So right now in Retas PaintmanHD, what I did is I opened up a file folder, which is where you keep all your cells and all your layouts and all your backgrounds. That window right there with a character, that's a sub menu or a sub palette. It's basically what you use to choose all your colors. So it creates a dropper every time you put your cursor over it. So you could just eyedrop paint, gather the color, and then just go over to your picture and use a paint bucket. So this was PC based, and it was running on an old PC. Right now what I'm doing is I'm just trying to block out parts of the image so I don't paint over it. So I'm just creating lines and curves so I don't paint inside of the white of the eye. And that would go for any other part of the picture itself. And this process is much like any other painting flats. You basically just use your eyedropper, you grab the color, go back to your image, and you just fill in paint with your paint bucket. So as you can see, this PC was really slow. When I was trying to record the video, it was lagging very, very much. So what it's doing, Redis is mathematically trying to figure out all the contours of the lines so it can fill in all of the spaces, but it's not a perfect system, so there's lots of holes left inside of the cell. So I'm also just using a paintbrush to try to fill in those holes. So back then I was using a small, I think it was 4x6 inch writing tablet from Wacom, one of the early versions of it. I didn't have any critiques at this time, so the process was painfully slow for me, and I was just getting to learn how to use this the software as well as the tools. Right now I shortly realized that I was using the wrong character basically for my subpalette. I'm searching right now for the correct palette to use. So that's the character. It's not on model, the subpalette. So I'm basically just going to go back, gather my paint, and repaint any of the areas that I messed up on. So this process does make it fast. There's software these days that is a lot faster, like Toon Boom Harmony, Animate Pro, even Toon Boom Studio has a faster paint process, especially since there's newer computers and uh, better GPUs and all that other stuff that computers have. This process is a lot better, and Retas still works. It's still a standard in Japan, but if you go over to like Canada or the States, uh, you wouldn't find Redis really being used, if at all, since the package itself is, I think, like $400, the English version. I'm sorry, $4,000, the English version, and it's just not economically worth it, and the technology is really old. So I'm just changing a piece of the outline right now. So this process is just uh, click together your color and paint with your paint bucket, and then go in and use a brush to fill in any gaps that you're missing. You can do this in almost all paint programs, but with Redis you can use a vector-based character and paint in using raster, which is like hopefully you know what raster and vector is by now. So as you can tell, this is a painfully long process, and this is because I didn't know how to use the equipment that I had basically at the time. I was really young. But it's basically just painting flats. And right now what you're seeing is that was a color check that Redis hasn't, it has part of their software. I think like you use like a shortcut like the B button or something like that, and it would turn it into a silhouette, which is something that I like. But once again, Redis is a quite old program. So the average paint time of animation cells um, is roughly about 10 minutes. Lots of companies in Japan, their painting department, they use either just a regular tablet, not a Cintiq, or not an LCD tablet. They just use a plain tabletop tablet, or I've even seen people use just a mouse click and keyboards. And if you're painting cells, you should be going a lot faster than this. It's just once again, I have to reiterate that I was very green and I didn't know what I was doing. So I'm trying to paint in this little gap right there. And Retas has a lot of cool tools to use, but unfortunately, like I said, I can't not keep reinforcing the idea that Redis is really old. It is still a standard in Japan. Software by Celsius, which is who make Redis. The package comes with Redis Stylus, HD, PaintmanHD, TracemanHD, and Redis Studio, which is kind of like, I would have to say it's like After Effects. So the layer palette you see on the side is much like any palette you would find in a paint program. The only difference is that they have different layers for shadow markup. So right now I'm just thinking where I should put my shadows. So I'm just going to drag a line and curve it, and keep using that contour editor to curve my lines. So the process is pretty simple. I'm going painfully slow. If you were doing this for a career, you would have to move a lot faster, and your shadow markups would usually be already set by the animator um, to show you where all the shadows should be. And that would be the lead animator or director. So you could turn off and on those lines, and the paint will, paint up to that line. So that's a good part of having this type of option in a program like this. And I'm thinking more just where I should put my shadows. And this tool is basically a paint behind tool. So it won't paint the lines itself, the outline. It'll basically paint behind the lines. And once again, I'm just going to use a line and contour to paint in some of these lines. And now I just continue this process until I have all my shadows in the places that I want them to be, basically. So I'm just zooming in, turning down the color a little bit so I get a darker shade, using the line tool to create a line, and it automatically turns into a contour tool after you let go, and then I'll just fill in that color. So this tool right here is kind of just like a smudge tool. It fills in the gap where you want the color to be extended into. So this process it's a little tedious, but it's a necessary process because you're basically painting the animation cells. And this tool right here is a instant airburst tool. It's kind of handy, but it looks very very digital, not so much analog like an actual cell would be painted. So right now I'm just comparing the two, looking at the difference. I know the character isn't on model. The chin is way off and whatnot, but so right now I'm just looking for any inconsistencies, trying to fill in the blacks. Giving the little hat a little shadow. As you can tell, I'm spending way too much time on this hat. And I'm changing that bright yellow highlight into a lime green, more or less. And just trying to fill in any gaps that I can see. And that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much the process of painting animation cells using Reddit. Um, you can do this in Toon Boom and any of the softwares. You could use Paint Shop Pro. You can use Photoshop. You can use Manga Studio. But you want to keep the consistency of the colors. So that's why I would always suggest you use a professional animation program. Um, with Toon Boom Harmony, you can paint multiple cells at once, so you're not painting each individual cell. There's tools for that. There's lots of good things that you can do in Harmony, especially. So you might want to start looking into that if you want to start doing anime, because, like I said earlier, there is a huge, I guess, turn that's going to be being made in the anime industry soon. I think that Toon Boom is going to be one of the top players in anime uh, very, very soon. So you might want to start learning Toon Boom software and just have fun with it. That's the best I can do for you right now. Um, keep watching, and I'll try to teach you more as best I can. Thanks.